Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so I'm opening this video with a line that I've said so many times as of late. We're building on the same idea. Something is a-brewin'. There is obviously something bubbling beneath the surface here. There's something that I think the media or the Democrats haven't quite reconciled just yet, and that is the idea of the new Trump voter, the secret Trump voter, and most importantly, the first-time voter. You know, obviously the polling data as of right now is suggesting a pretty strong Trump victory. We've seen that consistently for months at this point, but I'm starting to believe that the polling data isn't telling us the full story. It isn't giving us the full picture. It seems as though the voter enthusiasm gap is so wide in this election that it might lead to a catastrophic electoral situation for sleepy creepy piss pants Joe and his puppet masters. You know, the simple fact is Joe Biden can't get people to show up. I mean, let's put it into clear perspective here. This is a Biden event. Joe Biden goes to deeply blue partisan areas, and he can't even fill a room. In fact, most of the time, it seems as though nobody even knows that he's there. Democrat politicians in the area, even they don't want to show up at these events. And meanwhile, Donald Trump's getting these kinds of crowds in Harlem and the Bronx.
2, 3, go! Trump!
You know, there's obviously a massive enthusiasm gap. One guy can't get people to show up, and the next guy seems to be getting newer people to show up, people who have never voted before, or people who may have taken a little hiatus from politics because they were discontent. That's the factor we've been talking about, and it seems as though the left-wing lamestream media might be getting a little bit of a peek into this phenomenon. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So like I've been saying, I keep seeing more and more of these kinds of people. Just take a look at this interaction.
It's too much crime. Everything is going downhill. The economy is going bad. The food is expensive. It's like affordable housing is not for everybody. It's just horrible.
I want food to go cheaper. The gas, I want gas cheaper. When I came and he was the president, the gas was a lot cheaper than it is right now.
Now we're becoming the Bronx second-class citizens. We have this influx of migrants are coming in, and they're getting everything. And everyone in the Bronx, in the city of New York, is forgotten.
And Jose, a lot of the people I talked to were first-time voters. Some had never been to a Trump event before. Some had voted for Obama twice and voted for Biden and are now saying they are going to vote for former President Trump in November. Look, a lot is going to happen over the next 6 months, but this is something I've been hearing consistently from voters, and that's why you're seeing some of the more aggressive push from the Biden campaign to try to shore up their base, to try to rally those voters.
MSNBC sounds the alarm bells. They're seeing a trend. They're interviewing people on the streets and realizing that a lot of these people that are showing up to these Trump rallies are first-time voters. People who are getting drawn into the political realm to vote for their livelihoods. That right there is the stuff that wins elections. And I'm going to say it again, that's not happening on the Joe Biden side. There's nobody who's paying for current gas prices and grocery prices, someone who hasn't voted before, but all of a sudden feels this immense urge to head to the polls for the first time ever to vote for Joe Biden to save democracy. Those people don't exist. Okay, maybe some of these people do exist, but the point that I'm trying to make is not at the same scale. There's no way anybody can convince me that there are highly motivated, brand new Joe Biden voters coming out of the woodworks ready for 4 more years. We need 4 more years to save democracy, and Joe Biden's the guy to do it. Hardly nobody is saying or thinking that. Joe Biden's got the same old boomers who voted for him in the last election, who are part of this weird Rachel Maddow MK Ultra program. He's got those people, but not much else. I'd even be willing to predict that I think Joe Biden's going to see lower voter turnout this time than he did in the last election. I don't think that's going to happen on the Trump side. The man is surging like never before. You know, as the media is pointing out, it's not just first-time voters that they're seeing. As they're now admitting, these crowds at Donald Trump's events, quote, represent White America. They're incredibly diverse.
Get off this train.
Yeah.
Wow. What else really stood out to you about the rally?
I will say this rally did look a lot like America. There was a lot of Asian voters there. There were a lot of Hispanic voters, a lot of black voters there, which is not typical for a Trump rally that I go to when I'm in Wisconsin or Michigan. Yeah. So that's what was fascinating.
But it is a cross-section of New York.
Exactly, exactly. And that's specifically why Trump was there yesterday. Those are key demographics that he sees are starting to break for him just a little bit. That door is opening for Hispanic voters to start voting for Trump in record numbers. They want to capitalize on that in this election. They think if they do, it'll spell success for them.
Wow. Olivia, really fascinating.
It's not just rich white people like Bernie Sanders tells us. It's loyal, God-fearing Trump supporters, brand new first-time voters, and all kinds of new diverse people who are seeing clearly for the first time. Donald Trump is surging across the board. He's campaigning effectively and getting more people to join him week by week, but most importantly, year by year and election by election. Actually, here's a great point that we could talk about. Remember back during the primary process, Democrats kept telling us how Donald Trump was historically underperforming. He's less popular than he was before, and it's probably due to all of the indictments, blah, 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 yada frickin' yada. Well, now, all of a sudden, CNN's admitting that that whole narrative was a complete lie.
So, I want to take a look back through history. Performance after opponents dropped out. These are non-incumbents in presidential primaries. I want you to look through the years, right? Mitt Romney was getting about 71% of the vote after his opponents dropped out. Donald Trump back in 2016, 74%. Joe Biden last time around, 77%. The one who's actually getting the highest share after his opponents dropped out is actually Donald Trump this time around with 81%. This is actually a very strong performance for a non-incumbent after his opponents dropped out. The protest vote is actually at a historic low.
What about Joe Biden? How is he doing in terms of an incumbent in a primary?
Yeah, you know, everyone's saying that Donald Trump's doing weak. It's actually Joe Biden, in my mind, in the primaries that's doing weak, at least relative to history, because right now he's getting 87% of that primary vote for an incumbent, but that's actually the lowest. That is actually the lowest for any candidate since George H.W. Bush back in 1992 when Pat Buchanan challenged him. Of course, we all remember, at least I remember, that George H.W. Bush lost re-election in the fall to Bill Clinton.
In fact, Donald Trump in the primaries got the most support in history after all of his other opponents dropped out of the race. It continues to show this same trend, that Trump is picking up rather than shedding. I've been saying that forever. Trump came into office back in 2016 at his least popular. That is incredibly rare. He started low and he continues to build and build and build. He's got his loyal Trump base that got him elected in 2016, and he just continues to build on top of it. That trend has continued for the last essentially 8 years, and now it seems like it's even ramping up and spreading into new demographics as minority voters are now jumping on the bandwagon. Again, CNN is admitting it.
What are the trends you're seeing among Hispanic voters this year?
Yeah, so we saw a trend among Hispanic voters from 2016 to 2020 where they became less Democratic. Look at the trend that we're seeing right now in the polling, right? So if you look back at Hispanic voters at this point in the 2020 cycle, Joe Biden had a 25-point lead. Look at where that lead is today. It's just 7 points. Donald Trump right now at 44%, if that helped, would be the best performance for a Republican candidate among Hispanic voters since George W. Bush back in 2004. And this is part of a larger trend line, Kate, that we're seeing among non-white voters. We see it among black voters as well. We've discussed that on this program before, whereby they're much more favorable to Donald Trump than they were 4 years ago. And of course, Donald Trump did better amongst both of those groups in 2020 versus how he did in 2016.
Or as Fox News is reporting, Donald Trump is changing people's mindsets.
Now, we see in polling that minority voters, black and brown Americans, are starting to shy away from the Democrat Party. And that is also what we saw on the ground.
I'll go anywhere I have to show that other black people are changing. They're changing their mindset. Like, even my great-grandmother, 95 years old, lifelong Democrat, is going to vote for Trump this year. She said Biden is out of control.
He's heading to places like the South Bronx with a positive, visionary message, and the only thing the Democrats can respond with is all those people are clowns. Remember what Kathy Hochul said yesterday? Or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's genius remarks, don't vote for him. Not only is he a racist, but he's going to make gas more expensive. I guess the abortion talking point has run its course, and now this is what they're pivoting with. But of course, not only that, here's a top Democrat surrogate who tried another strategic counter talking point.
Well, Donald Trump's presidency was a catastrophe for the Bronx. His gross mismanagement of the COVID-19 global pandemic left a death toll of more than 7,000 fatalities in the Bronx, which is greater than the death count of 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. So Donald Trump has brought preventable death and deep suffering to the people of the Bronx. And as I noted, instead of holding a rally, he should be issuing an apology to the people of the Bronx for the long and lasting damage that he has done, not only to the Bronx, but to our country.
Yeah, going right back to the pandemic, Donald Trump caused all of the deaths from the cove. It's all his fault. Nobody's buying that crap. Nobody's living in that mindset anymore. We are seeing a Trump groundswell. It's showing up in the polls. Oh, and trust me, it's showing up in the polls. This is what the race looks like according to the current data. It's red as far as the eye can see. The latest Emerson poll shows Trump nationally with a +5 lead. And keep in mind, of course, Emerson is one of the most accurate pollsters out there. And essentially the point of the video is not only is the polling data suggesting this, but the polling data might not be tapping into what's really going on beneath the surface. What's a brewing? I think Donald Trump is clearly cooking something up here, and campaign season just started. And now the question is, can Joe Biden keep up? I really don't think so. It's going to be a hard election to predict. It's hard to read too much into the polling data, but it certainly feels like something is happening. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.